welcome back. This is What If Deku was Shirou Emiya, Part 13. And just before we get started, you know, even though there has like 2 uploads today, tomorrow there will be 2 uploads also, but it will only be, What If Deku was Shirou Emiya Part 14 and then Part 1 of a series that, people have messaged me that are close in my friend circle that they'd like to see my take on. So alongside part 14, part 1 will be of What If Deku was Daredevil. So look forward to that. And anyway, let's get into it. Where we last left off, Deku was, he completed the exam and, he kind of got All Might's attention now. And, I'm going to just go ahead and say it, All Might did find a successor. And since Deku wasn't really there and, him and All Might never really got close enough together, he did give his quirk over to Mirio. So Mirio is All Might's successor in this. But, Deku doesn't know that. And nobody knows it besides All Might and Night Eye. And, Night Eye, he goes over to Ida and he tells him, that was a bit brutal what he did to him, but, it was a good strategy to use. Use your opponent's own momentum along with your strength, and you could knock them out. But now I says I wouldn't really recommend using that move too much, since it is easy to kill someone with that. And, Deku's just like, he's actually kind of right. And he's like, sorry, I kind of got caught up in the momentum of it. And I was pretty desperate at that time anyway. And Night Eye tells him, yeah, that's alright and all, but still, little self-restraint, but you're on the right track. You definitely proved with your actions that you can back up your words. After all, you did beat a pro by yourself. And, everybody is kind of looking at Deku and Ida, and they're just like, man, we really haven't even been the nicest to Deku at all. And it is true, like, he doesn't have any family anymore. And, Night Eye says, it was weird. It's like my quirk went on the fritz whenever I was trying to see the future. He says, I saw me and All Might winning, but at the same time, I saw us losing. And that has never happened before. And Deku's like, I have no answers for you whatsoever. And Asui, she's just like, I'm sorry I wasn't more help to you guys. And, Ida's like, what, are you kidding me? You were very instrumental in, helping us succeed by finding that exit and getting out when you did. And All Might, he raises him and says, yeah, if someone's not as strong as the other 2 people, they shouldn't really try to fight, but instead look for a way to escape the situation, or, potentially find a way to get extra help. And with doing that, Asui proved that she does have the makings to be a hero as well. And Asui, she's kind of happy. And she actually starts breaking down a little bit and crying. And Deku's just like, yo, well, like, why are you crying so much? And she's just like, I'm just glad no one's getting expelled, she says. And Nezu's just like, yeah, they all proved their worth. And, he's like, well, I guess they're all ready for training camp. And everyone's actually kind of excited when they hear that. And Deku's just like, now that you mention it, there's no Holy Grail War stuff going on. I actually might be able to attend training camp. But then he realizes training camp means he can't have sex with Tosaka anymore for a while. And he's kind of thinking about skipping training camp just for, the pure time of, spending it with Tosaka and having sex with her, because Deku does like that a lot. And, Nezu tells Deku, because he can tell Deku's thinking something. He walks up to Deku and he's like, and there are no reasons for you not to be coming. And Deku's just like, what? Well, I wasn't thinking about not going. And Nezu can tell. And he's just like, yeah, sure you weren't. He's like, you're going. And Deku's just like, fuck. So he whips his phone out and he sends a text to Tosaka telling her, he has to go to training camp for a week in a couple days. And she's just like, oh, okay. And she's like, wait, how are they going to train you as a mage with them not having any mages? And, Nezu, he looks at Deku and he says, oh, don't worry, we have a special mage, coming out to train you one-on-one, So, don't worry about it. And Deku texts her, apparently they got somebody. And Deku, he's kind of nervous, but at the same time, he's just like, and he texts her, better get all our, sex in tonight. And Tosaka's like, about that. And he's like, what about it? And she's like, I'm not really in the mood to do it for a while. When you get back, I think that'll be better. And Deku's just like, oh no, shit. He's like, oh, okay. And Ida can tell that Deku's like, he's kind of down about that. So Ida just picks on him. And Deku's just like, yeah, don't act like you ain't trying to get some from Luvia. And Ida, his face turns a bit red and he's just like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, oh, really? Don't act like I don't notice you and Luvia getting closer and closer and the way you looking at her and all that. And Ida's phone goes off. And, Deku says, how much you want to bet that's her texting you right now? It is like, it's probably not her, and Deku's like, okay, then put some money on it. Ida's like, what? No, I ain't betting money. And Deku's like, okay. How about this? Since you've been staying at my place for a while, if I'm right and she is texting you, you got to do laundry for a month. And if you're right and it's not her, then, let's see, what could I do? You're like, oh, I got it. I'll cook you whatever you want and do all your laundry for a month. And it is actually thinking like, damn, that is a pretty good deal. Deku doing all his laundry for a month, as well cooking him anything Ida says, and that's what he has to eat too for a whole month. He's just like, all right, you got a deal. Ida checks his phone, and it's Luvia, and Deku's like, looks like you're doing all the laundry for a month. And Ida's just like, damn. And Luvia's, asking Ida, what's this about training camp? And Ida's just like, how did you find out about that? And she's just like, oh, Rin told me, me and her are out having coffee right now. And she's just like, what about school? And she's like, oh, don't worry, Tosaka's school is, they're quite understanding and they're letting her do all her classes online and, all that. And Ida's just dumbfounded. And then he gets a text from his mom and, Ida's like, oh, crap. He checks his phone and his mom's wondering, like, yo, are you going to be, coming home anytime soon anymore? Or are you just going to be living with your friend from now on? Ida's thinking about that. He's like, yo, you know what? If I just move in with Emiya, I don't have to, worry my parents as much. And at the same time, it does. If stuff does happen with me or Luvia, I don't have to worry about my parents walking in on me. And he has, Deku real quick. He's like, hey, is it cool if I move in with you? And everyone is just staring like, what? And Deku's like, you practically already live in there. So yeah, go ahead. I'll help you move your stuff over there tonight. And Ida's like, text his mom back, I'm moving in with Emiya. And, Ida's mom calls him straight up, just no bar, just hold, just like. Ida answers, and his mom's just like, yo, are you sure that's okay with Emiya? Like, did you talk to his guardians all the way through? And he explains, Emiya lives alone. He has no family. His sister was killed. And in his mom's mind, she's thinking Ida's there to move in with him for moral support and, so the guy won't be just isolated by himself. And she's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's all right. We can have all your stuff packed for you by the time you get out of school if you guys just want to drop by and pick it up. And she's like, oh, do you need us to, just drive it over there? And Ida's just like, that's surprisingly okay with you? And she's like, yeah. And Ida's thinking, and he's just like, if they drive it over there, he's going to have to explain Luvia and Tosaka along with Sakura. And he did just tell her that, Deku's living alone. He's like, no, we'll come by and get it. She's like, how are you going to haul it? And he was just like, they'll have a ride. And, Deku's just like, how the fuck are we going to move it? And that's when, Ida kind of looks over there at Aizawa and he's just like, hey, Teach, do you know anybody that could, let us borrow a van to move my stuff? And, Aizawa's just like, I'll drive you. And Ida's just like, what? And Aizawa's like, yeah, I'll help you. After all, I need to talk to you two specifically about this training camp thing. After all, and Emiya, I need to know the truth about your abilities as well. And he's like, I won't tell anybody, but I need to know. And All Might can't help but overhear this. And even though his time limit's expiring, he tells them that, he'll go with Aizawa to, help. And that, he's curious about Emiya and wants to know more knowledge about him. And Emiya's looking at them both, and he's just like, fine, I'll tell both of y'all, but it stays confidential. No one knows. And All Might says, trust me, kid, you have no idea how good I am with keeping a secret. And Night Eye's telling him, for once, that's surprisingly true. And Deku's just like, Alright. And so they walk off and, class ends. And everyone, they're super excited for the whole fucking training camp thing. And as soon as they get back to class, everyone apologizes to Deku. And Deku did not see this coming nowhere. And Todoroki, he points out the obvious. Your skin's darkened in more areas, and your hair is completely white now. He's like, what's going on? And Deku just says, well, that's not something I need to talk to all y'all about. Just know that, my skin's not going to get any darker than this. And, Todoroki's like, alright, fine. And, Deku, he's just like, oh. And he looks at himself in the mirror and he's like, I'm just one step away from having my skin be completely and totally Archer's, skin tone. So he decides he's just going to go ahead and use his magic circuit some more to just fizz out the change once he gets home. And that he does before he heads over to get, eat his stuff, because he's still waiting on Aizawa and All Might. So he's just using projection magic like crazy, trying to get a feel for it some more. See if he can't use his left arm as good as his right arm. And I'm going to say, he's closing the distance, but it's not enough. But his skin does finally all turn to one color now. So now he looks identical to Archer. So, yeah, that's pretty much what's happened now. And Ida, he's just like, I will never get used to you just doing that. And Deku's like, yeah, I know. And he hits the shower, and he gets out of the shower, and he hears a honk outside, and he goes to the door. He's shirtless, but he does have his pants on. So he sees the car out there. He calls to Ida. Ida, he was talking with Luvia some more, flirting with her. And he's like, oh, okay, gotta go. He's like, yo, you gonna put on a shirt? Deku just gets a black jacket off the coat rack, puts it on, zips it up, and he's like, nah, I'm good, let's go. They get in the car, and they're driving. It's a pretty long drive, not even gonna lie. And Aizawa tells Deku, he can go ahead and start explaining now. And Deku tells him, alright, I am quirkless, that is not a lie. But that doesn't make me powerless. And All Might's like, what else is there besides quirks? Deku sells him Magecraft. And All Might's like, Magecraft? I've never heard of that. And he's like, you probably wouldn't have. Magecraft is something that's supposed to be kept a secret. But with the emergence of quirks, people started using Magecraft more and more openly. But before the emergence of quirks, Magecraft was something that was only supposed to be done secretly. And even though people are stating that there are mages, they're still getting written as, people with quirks. And more of those mage families that have kids that use quirks, they tend to not use their Magecraft anymore. So mage families have all died out. Basically, like, the number of Magecraft wielders is only like 3% of the world's total population. And the quirkless population is 6%. But of that 6%, only 3% are mages. And, All Might's just like, wow. So he's like, there's more quirkless people than there are mages. And Deku's like, yeah, basically. But, back in the day when magecraft was something to be kept a secret, you had specialized assassins that would kill mages to keep them from drawing too much attention to themselves. And he says, my father was one such man. And Aizawa kind of flinches when he hears that Deku's father was an assassin. And All Might's kind of freaking out. He's just like, that explains a lot of your fighting style. And Deku's just like, I didn't learn to really fight from my dad. It's from the school I went through overseas. It's called the Clock Tower. It trains mages to be elites. And they were going, if I didn't choose to be a hero, I would have became their new assassin. And All Might's kind of not fond of, having a kid turn into an assassin at that type of school. So he's like, well, we should probably shut it down. And All Might's like, no, you don't get it. He's like, I wasn't going to go after people that were drawing attention. All Might's like, what do you mean? He's like, there are bad mages out there that would have wanted nothing more than to participate in a certain type of ritual called the Holy Grail War. And Deku tells him, I got done fighting in that war, and that's what got my sister killed, because she was fighting in that war with me. And I lost so much in that war. And actually, you met, a servant that was summoned that participated in that war, who died in that war. And Aizawa asks him, what is a servant? And Deku tells him, it's basically a spirit of a person from the past or future that, did many great deeds or horrible deeds in their lives, and they made a contract to be a servant to fight for a chance to have a wish granted of their choosing. But oftentimes it's not the servants that make the wishes, but humanity. Because every time you summon a servant, you have 3 command spells that will bind them to do your will. And Aizawa's like, who would even accept that? And he's like, desperate people. Or people who have a goal. And All Might's like, okay, so who did I meet? And he said, Archer. And he's like, he was a servant? And Deku tells him, yes, there's 7 classes. And All Might's like, classes? And Deku tells him, yeah, there's Saber, Rider, Assassin, Caster, Lancer, Saber, and Archer. And he's just like, wait, so Archer wasn't his name? And Deku tells him, no, who you met, his name was Heroic Spirit Izuku Emiya. And almost like, that's your name. And All Might starts putting it together. He's just like, you look exactly like him now. His name, was that your future self? And Deku tells him, yes. And actually, my right arm is his. And that's when Aizawa kind of hits the brakes hard in disbelief. He's like, what the fuck? And Deku tells him, yeah. I had my arm blown off in the Holy Grail War. I would have bled out and died, which would have created a paradox and killed the entire universe that we lived in. So in order to stop all that, he cut off his own arm so that one may die, but one may live. And he attached his arm to me. But if I'm not careful with using my magic of this arm until my body can accommodate itself, it'll tear me apart from the inside out. And I was just like, damn, he had no idea that Deku was dealing with this sort of a time bomb. And All Might asks Deku to explain his abilities, and Deku tells him, okay, I can use projection magic, strengthening magic, I can use time acceleration magic, that only affects myself. I can see, everything clearly from 100 kilometers and, well, not 100, but more like 1,000 kilometers. And my main ability is I rock at archery. But I'm no slouch in hand-to-hand combat. And I can summon any type of weapon that's, in my reservoir of weapons and use them and those weapons' special abilities, which they do have. So no matter what type of quirk I'm fighting against, more than likely I have a blade or any type of weapon that can neutralize it. And, Aizawa, he's kind of getting the picture now. And, he asked Deku, why didn't you use that power against Bakugo? And Deku tells him, it's against the rule to use your power out in public. And besides, there wasn't really any need to protect anyone. If it was just aimed at him, he wasn't going to try and kill the guy anyway. And, drawing a bladed weapon would have got him arrested. So, All Might asks Deku, have you ever killed anyone? And Deku tells him, the only people I've killed are people that have already died, which are heroic spirits. And, Aizawa was just like, but you did kill them. And he's like, yeah, killing them's the only way to get rid of them without killing their master, which is not happening. And, Aizawa was like, I can understand your reasoning. And, Deku tells him, trust me, I lost a lot in the real war. And All Might's like, you keep saying that, but what else did you lose besides your sister? And Deku tells him, he had to fight his own father, who was summoned back as a heroic spirit. And Aizawa can kind of hear Deku's voice shaking a bit as he's talking and describing the fight, where Deku had bullet holes puncturing through his, through his stomachs. He had several, just lacerations, cuts from knives. That he was fighting along with his father's, when his father was alive, his most dangerous enemy. And that he slammed his blade straight through his father's back and out his chest, killing him, and then letting another man die, because he would have turned on them the second that, Deku killed his father. And All Might can't believe, that what he's hearing from Deku. And All Might's mortified. Like, he just doesn't know what to say or what to do. But that's when, Aizawa tells Deku, he'll keep this all a secret. All Might will too. Aizawa tells Deku, you have my respect. You did the hard things. And as a hero, you're going to have to make a lot of those tough decisions like that. And Aizawa tells him, in the spotlight, the more popular heroes, they don't kill anyone. And All Might tells him that's not true. And Aizawa's just like, what do you mean? All Might tells him, there's a villain out there that is so powerful. All Might has tried to kill him just to beat him. And that their fight is coming up pretty soon. And in that battle, it's gonna be either All Might or him. And All Might says he's not gonna hold back against him, and he's gonna go for the kill. And Aizawa's perfect example right there with All Might. Some villains are just too dangerous to be kept alive, and you're going to have to kill them. And you already have the resolve to do that. So for that, you have my respect. And Deku tells him, Ida has that same resolve. And this surprises Aizawa even more. And he's just like, what? And he's like, Ida fought in the Holy Grail War with him in the final end part right there. Where Ida was fighting for his life against someone that was even stronger than All Might. And Deku only won because of his superior skills. That, the dude was overconfident in his ability, which led to his death. If he would have been focused and would have went straight for the kill against him, Deku tells him that he would have been dead. And that checks Ida's perception of Deku real quick, and Ida realizes, like, yeah, that dude was just fucking around a lot. That now that he realizes it, he could have killed every single one of them there and gone on with his plan. But his overconfidence is what caused his death. But just as Ida's like saying that, they get to his house and, they're just like, all right. Gotta keep this cool. They get out there and, as always, meeting and greeting while Deku and Ida are just like loading up the van. All Might goes into, buff Might mode, and he's just, talking with Ida's parents. Ida's brother comes rolling out in a wheelchair. He's telling his brother, bye, good luck. Try not to cause too much trouble for your new housing partner. Deku's just like, no, if anything, this dude helps keep me honest. And Ida's family is really happy to hear that. And Aizawa is just, he tells them Ida is going to become a great hero. And he'll be better than any of them could have ever dreamed about. That relieves Ida's brother so much. And he starts crying. Ida comforts his brother. They share a moment. They go back to the house. you know, Deku, and they unload Aizawa, All Might. They drive off. They don't even go inside. They don't really care to. They got all the information that they wanted. And, Deku and Ida, they're unpacking in Ida's room. Luvia comes in, she's like, oh, so you're going to be living here permanently now? And, Ida tells her, yeah. And he's like, and Luvia asks Deku to give her a minute alone with Ida. Deku complies to this. He leaves the room. Tosaka's already asleep. So Deku, he tells Ida he'll see him in the morning. He's going to go sleep right next to Tosaka. Deku gets in the bed. He calls up to her. He's out. And Luvia's telling Ida that, she's noticed how much he's changed from when she first met him. And that he's walking a bit taller. He's more confident in himself now. And she really likes that in a man. But she tells him she hasn't got much time left in Japan. That once the Second Holy Grail War is dealt with, she'll be heading back to England to, continue on at the clock tower. Unless she has permission to, stay here permanently. Ida hears this and he's like, so what are you saying? That we shouldn't even try to get close to each other? And she's like, no. I'm just saying, if you're going to make a move, that you'd better make it now. So without even thinking about it, Ida just kisses Luvia straight on the lips. And, after he pulls back, Luvia's just like, well, I didn't expect you to make that big of a move. But she says she likes it. And Ida's like, I'm glad. And, they share a tender moment. Then Luvia helps Ida unpack, and she goes back to her room with Sakura, and he lays in his bed thinking, what a day. But that's where I'm going to be leaving it off for tonight. This was definitely a more story-driven episode than anything, but it's, much needed because what's about to be happening in, part 14 and onward. So I hope you guys do like this. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave me a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys later. Peace.